Hey, good morning, Guam, and welcome to this portion of the Buzz we call Hot Topic. Hey, good morning, Guam. Welcome to this portion of the Buzz Radio Live that we call Hot Topic. This is our second show that we feature, of course, live guests. We're live streaming right now, so welcome to live stream at KUAM Facebook page and YouTube channel, and welcome again. My in-studio guest this morning is none other than Josh Tenorio. How you doing, Josh?
Very good. Good morning, Jesse.
Good morning.
Nice to see you.
Good morning. Actually, congratulations. Your new title is Vice President for Autospot.
That's right, Guam Autospot.
Yep. Former court administrator, former legislative staff, former deputy chief of staff of the governor's office. So you've, you've been in all three branches of government, now in the private sector as well.
Right.
Wow. So
that's exciting.
You're diversifying your base here, Josh.
My life experience.
Your life experience. So looks like you're getting ready for the big leagues.
Could be. I think so. You know, this is my second time in the private sector, so it's good. And getting out to, a big dynamic company that is growing rapidly, I think it's a good.
Well, take us through your, for the folks. A lot of folks know you, and they know you for the positions that you hold at that time. So you're not a newcomer, but you've been a face to government, to the political world, mostly in the Democratic side. Right. I still hold something against you. Okay, I asked you to be my chief of staff. Okay, but you were such a Democrat that you couldn't move over. But anyway, I don't hold that against you. But anyway,
you had a couple waivers though, because you're from Sinanya. That's a big waiver, I think.
There you. But take us back to your starting government.
Well, I tell you what, my real start. Some people might not think it's a start, but I do think it's a start. I was 15 years old and I was elected to the Youth Congress. Each summer when I was 15, 16, and 17, I was working as an intern for Senator Madeline Berdalian. You know that my dad was, the late Jesus Tenorio Chumbay, was a big Berdalio supporter, so it was obvious that I'd do that. And then I was a Speaker of the Youth Congress when I was 17 years old, representing the University of Guam. And then I eventually went on the campaign team of Robert Underwood, and we elected him to Congress. And then in 1993, in the summer, I started working for him as a legislative assistant, and I did that for about 5 years.
You were in Washington, or were you in the Guam office?
I started off in Guam, and then I went to Washington the last year and a half or so, and then I came back during Typhoon Paka, right after Typhoon Paka, and it's just my mom and my sister. I have one sister. She's a widow. My sister is, at that time, I'd say maybe she's about 14, 15. So I wanted to, I felt a need to be with them. So I met Governor Gutierrez at a New Year's Eve party, and then he offered me a job, and he gave me 3 days to give him an answer. And I really thought long and hard about it, and then I accepted it. And I left my assignment with Congressman Underwood in March of '98, and I came back. I was excited. It was going to be a competitive election. I wanted to be a part of an election team. But really, I wanted to help my family, which is why I came back.
Sure.
And then I came back as a grants manager for the recovery office, and that lasted a day. And I eventually got recruited to the governor's office, and then I rose to the rank of deputy chief of staff by the time that we ended.
Okay, and you served did you serve in the first term and both terms?
So I served at the tail end of the first term, and then the entire second term.
Second term.
Right.
Okay.
And I would say it was almost like the first term that never ended.
Sure.
We went into recall, recount.
Sure, that's right. Yeah.
All sorts of stuff that.
I was part of the opposition party.
I remember
opposition team actually. The
opposition operation.
Out of Camacho.
Right.
Yeah. So it took us.
So after that, I then went and became the Judiciary Committee Director for Randy Cunliffe, and that's where we had more professional ties. We had some personal ties before then.
And actually, that was the 27th Guam
That's right, the 27th.
You worked under Senator Randy Cunliffe.
And we did the Court Unification Act.
Yes, as a matter of fact, let's go back into that because again, you had not only did you have the three branches of government here in Guam, but also you have again qualifications and great how in regards to how Congress runs, you were up at the
Sure,
Hill for a while. So let's go back to the consolidation of the court. The courts at one time had the Superior Court and Supreme Court, both autonomous from each other.
Right, the Superior Court pre-existed the Supreme Court by decades. So when I was working for Congressman Underwood, there was a Judicial Empowerment Act, which I worked on. At that time, it had the court unification, and it had also the option to elect the Attorney General. And as it went through, the only thing that survived really was the option to elect the Attorney General. That's what got passed. And of course, there were quite a number of national players that got into the whole issue. Consultants, high-powered lobbying consultants.
I know a good friend of mine, Jack, was highly involved in that.
So interesting, actually. Guam always seems to get their taste in history, or right in the middle of controversy. You know, and at the time when I worked for Underwood, you know, we were getting blasted by Tom DeLay. The Northern Marianas was always being celebrated as the bastion of democracy, no minimum wage, things like that, and bashing Guam, and we couldn't figure it out until really it came up with this. So I don't think that the U.S. Congress during Madeline Bordalio's tenure would have even thought to pass this had not, or I know for sure had not the local reorganization passed. And that passed with 10th override vote from you. Because there were 8 Democrats and 2 Republicans. It was Senator Klitsky and you that eventually voted for that.
But there was one Democrat who didn't vote for it. And that was Senator Frank Hugin Jr. Who did not vote for consolidation of the court at the time. And that's when I really learned. I mean, I knew in the very beginning that there was a very big political lobbying group to keep the court separate. I mean, until I got in there, I mean, I tell you, I was lobbied so hard to keep the court separate. It was such a big lobbying effort. They didn't want the courts to consolidate, but I knew it was the right thing. It was the right thing to do. So after the legislature had passed it, and it was passed, I think by 9 votes, right? It was passed by 9 votes.
It had been 9 votes, locked in 9
votes,
right?
And of course,
and the governor vetoed it.
The governor was vetoed. I think the first override did not succeed. I think it was the second override, right? The second override that succeeded with my 10th vote at the time, and it was the right thing to do.
And a brave thing to do, I'd say.
Well, I mean, you know, I needed time to really think and look at both arguments. Look at the arguments for consolidation and against consolidation, right? I mean, I knew at the time. I mean, I had to take the arguments that were given to me, basically, and decipher that and make sure, because I knew there was a political component to that. I knew there was self-preservation in regards to that. But I said, I know what we're doing in consolidating the court. Not only are we breaking up a possible kingdom, we're also creating another kingdom, you know, which I think we see at this point. But in essence, the end of the day, that was the right thing to do, to consolidate the courts.
I was very impressed that by the time I got in, a lot of those old wars had passed and the old divisions had passed. And, you know, when I left the court just a few weeks ago, right, on January 13th, which was my last day, we left the court. You know, the court operates pretty cohesively, and you know, a lot of the closest people that I worked with are in the Superior Court, I think, because of the volume of cases, and also because that's really where most of the work gets done. Of course, in the end, big issues get resolved in the Supreme Court, but the Superior Court is where you can push back on the drug problem, where you can push back on bad policy that failed or has been unjust to people, and create you know, these specialty courts to treat people as individuals and not as numbers. And I think that the court has been a big leader, especially under former Chief Justice Torres and Presiding Judge Lamorena and the other court leaders, to push back on what is the court's part in going and correcting some of these problems with the criminal justice system. They have the stature to do it, and they also have the stature to know when something's going wrong. And right now, I would say that, you know, the large number of people in pretrial detention, or the large number of people that are incarcerated, there's a big percentage that shouldn't be, or there's other decisions that should weigh in, whether or not it's worth the taxpayers' money to put somebody in there for 5 months for public intoxication, for example. Those are bad things.
And so you left the court about a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
A couple weeks now. But you know what? I'm going to take a quick break, and then when we come back and we'll talk a little bit about the court, and then what is rumored. I think it's beyond rumors already, because I think you solidified some of these things to me. That I think there's strong indication. There's a strong move there why you left the courts.
Okay.
Okay. Be right back. So anyway, we're still live streaming, so
Yeah.
so anyway, so we'll talk about. We can still talk.
Yeah, regular volume.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Can you pick
yeah,
that up?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So you left the courts, right? You left the courts. So how was your time in the courts?
Gosh, it was the best thing about the courts were the employees, and I'd say that probably during my time, you probably I think you'd hear that people would say that there's a lot of fairness in promotions, and fairness actually part of it is the budget situation. You know, for a long time, positions were frozen, so we had people that weren't promoted for 12 or 14 years. And the way I see it is, and you know, at the legislature, you know, you don't necessarily get rewarded for, you know, your efforts to reduce the budget. The legislature will reduce your budget for you if you don't produce what they want you to produce. So for me, how do you get morale up? You know, how do you get productivity up is by making sure you keep up with these promotions and keeping up. You know, so why are you going to have a clerk one be doing the job of a manager? You know, it's unfair. Same thing with marshals. So what I did was, you know, each time, you know, in government, when people retire, those are usually the highest wage earners. So you're still going to get a savings when you promote downward hire the person at step one. You're probably still going to get a 30% savings. So why not do that? And I think I did that, and I think the employees appreciate it, but I think the productivity and morale went back up as a result of doing that.
You know, the courts. I mean, I know over the course of the years, the judges have been told to, you know, you got to expedite these cases. Let's not hold the court up. There are a lot of cases that are out there. There's a move again.
It's the time standards.
Yeah, there's a move also to get I think more Superior Court judges as well as Supreme Court judges, right?
Right. There's been talk about that from inside the branch and outside. I tell you that. The time standards was a big thing. It's a big change in how the court operates, you know, and even how defense and prosecution operate.
Hey, we're back, and welcome back to Hot Topic. Of course, my guest this morning is Josh Tenorio, former court administrator, now the private sector vice president of Autospot. So, Josh, again, welcome back, and thank you again for coming here this morning. So we talked about your tenure at, of course, the nation's capital and legislature and the court. But one of the reasons, and we spoke on the phone while you were still employed at the court as the court administrator, and you couldn't really say much at that time, but there's strong rumor that you're probably getting again into the political arena with someone I know, my former colleague, Lujan, who's the president of Bank of Guam, the private sector now, that she's highly considering throwing her hat into the race for governor in 2018, next year, as a matter of fact. And there's a strong rumor and indication, you kind of alluded to that you are going to be her running mate.
Well, I'll tell you, over the last few months, several months, we've been engaged in quite a number of discussions, and I think after the election, for sure, those amounts of discussions have intensified. You know, so I would say that, you know, definitely, you know, she has to make her announcement. I can't speak for her. There's a good indication, obviously, that that she's heading in that direction. There's a good indication that I'd be top of her list to be considered to join that ticket. And I'll tell you what I'm doing right now is I'm going out and asking people what they think about it. So I wanted to ask you, what do you think about it?
No, I said the only thing I have against you, okay, is when I asked you to be my chief of staff, and I wouldn't have asked you to be my chief of staff if I didn't consider again your qualifications. I mean, to be my chief of staff, not just a staffer, but to be my chief of staff, because I knew you were qualified. I knew you had, of course, again the inside of the different branches of government, which I needed in my office. So I think that speaks for itself.
But by the way, that time I believe that I left the legislature.
That's right. Yeah, you did. You did leave the legislature.
But I'd say that Lou has a lot of great ideas to try and to get this island moving forward. And
so let me ask you this, Josh. Prior to the general election, I'm talking nationally now, when folks are considering running for president and vice president, mostly president at first, because it's later on that the vice president comes in. People are saying, hey, well, we hear that you're seeking to run for president. And they say, well, we have an exploratory team. We're doing that. Would you say at this point that the possible team of Leon Guerrero, Tenorio is probably beyond exploration at this point?
I think that probably it'll be safe to say that there's a lot of planning that needs to happen, and I wouldn't be surprised if you see a planning committee coming forward. The new
sure.
I'd say that, but I'd leave that for Lou.
Sure. No, I understand that
for her, but
I mean, one of the things with this, right, is and on the onset. Because there are names out there. I mean, there's a whole slew of names in the Democratic Party, not as much in the Republican Party, but a whole slew of names in the Republican Party and the folks that will be running for governor. Although the question after that is, as soon as they say, oh, he's running or she's running, the question after that, who will be the running mate? And you're the only team or prospective team at this point that has a complete team. The Leon Guerrero Tenorio. Everybody else that are rumored to be running or to again wanting to seek gubernatorial to be a candidate are by themselves at this point. We hear them asking folks and things like that. So on the Democratic side, I hear names like Frank Ogden Jr. I think he already took out
right. He's already started
raising money to run. There's also Carl Gutierrez. I think he's already made the announcement. Former Governor Carl Gutierrez that he's going to be running. We hear other names, San Nicolas, Dennis Rodriguez. Now whether they're going to run as governors or lieutenant governors and all that. What are your thoughts on, again, their perspective in these people that you grew up with in the
Sure, and some people are my compadres.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I think that in the end, that just means that there are a lot of good choices for the people to decide, and it's going to be incumbent on those that are going to run to organize and establish a base or maintain a base in some other cases, and try and motivate people to come out to the polls, because I think what I'm seeing in the results of the election and the participation is that it's kind of flatlined. Back in 1998, there were 60,000 registered voters, and you see that there's about to be 5,000 voters purged from the list because they failed to vote in the last two general elections. So what's going on out there?
Sure.
There's some discontent, obviously. We saw that in the results, shocking results in some cases in the last election. People were not happy with the pay raise issue. People are not motivated, or maybe in some cases they feel that their opinions are not being heard and their leaders are not acting on it.
Sure.
And I think that it's probably the charge of the candidates to try and motivate them, register people and get them out to vote. And I think that it's going to be a competitive election, but I think that with this many people coming out, that means that there's going to be more options for people to choose.
And it's not just the local election. When you look at national election, what's happening?
I'm glad you mentioned. I've got to tell you that part of my motivation to step out also is the national election. If you remember, back in 2008, I was out of the. I was in the private sector, but for about 4 months, I took leave from what I was doing, and I was a paid staff under the Obama campaign in 2008 because there was that competitive primary here. So I got a chance to be on this conference call that was probably attended by maybe a couple thousand people that were involved throughout the country. We heard the president speak about what was going on, and the big message, obviously talking to people that were disappointed with the results, but the message was, get out, go out, help people run yourselves from in all stages. Is it from school board all the way up? So for me, the sense to become active, to gain an opinion, I was muted for about 5 years. I'm not allowed to engage in politics. My friends don't understand why I can't go to their fundraisers. I felt that it's probably my time that I need to come out and be able to participate in this part of the democracy.
Sure. But in the start again, and this is one of the things that Keenan and I talked about in the show and with our listeners as well. It's the start of the 34th Guam legislature. I mean, and it's very quick that our listeners are saying this 34th Guam legislature is really starting back, very reminiscent of the 33rd, and to get that label very early on is not a good thing. They say, hey, we voted for change, but the change is really not coming. You seeking to run, knowing again what happened this last election, likewise national election where people came out because they were tired of the bureaucracy. They're tired of their issues not being tended to, and so the ones that the disenfranchised, I guess, voter at the time, they came out now. They said, hey, we're part of this, and they came out. But anyway, I'm going to talk about that and your thoughts on that. And their thoughts on, again, these other rumored candidates for governor and lieutenant governor.
All right.
Be right back. So anyway, I'm also saying that in order, it'd be great for a team to excite the voters to come out. It'd be great if it's a team like yourselves to come out and excite the voters, right?
Right.
But I mean, man, you need to, and my point of view, I think you need a very exciting chairman. I think your chairman, Keen Paris is extremely
for the
boring.
Democratic Party.
Yeah, I think Keen is extremely boring and arrogant. As a Democrat, and Democrats really are not arrogant. They're friendly people and exciting. I personally think, I know him personally, and he's not inviting his party. As a matter of fact, he asked you to be in the party. You want to go the other way, just because he asked you.
Party elections are coming up, so the opportunity for
but here's where I say with this, I think Carl Gutierrez has. He's an exciter, okay? He's an exciter.
Absolutely.
I personally think that he can do well for the party, not as a candidate. I think he'll do well for the party as the chairman of the Democratic Party because he can excite that base. I mean, Carl, whether you like his policies or not, when he meets up with you, he makes you feel that you're the most important person in the world.
He has that glow and that excitement. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I worked for him for many years.
And so, again, when you look at trying to retain Adler, the Democrats have not retained Adler. It'll be 16 years now.
That's right.
It'll be 16 years. When you're looking at that, you're going to have a party elections coming up, but wouldn't you guys come together as one and say, hey, let's pick a team. That can go after again the Republican team. Let's do that, because the Democrats have a knack of imploding.
Sorry to cut in, gentlemen, but Josh, you do have a shout out since we're in a break right now. Since we're streaming live on Facebook right now, Frankie Rosalind is saying "Viva" and "Good job, Josh," and then the thumbs up emoji.
Thanks.
Okay.
So Frankie Rosalind.
Thank you, Rosalind. Frankie, thank you very much. Thank you for tuning in. So again, with that, you guys could lose this for being disenfranchised.
Locally and nationally, it seems.
Hey, welcome back with my in-studio guest, of course, Josh Tenorio, highly rumored. He's kind of solidifying it this morning that this Beyond Conversation looked now more than exploratory at this point, that he will be a running mate to Lujan. Josh, let me ask you this. We talked about of the excitement getting the vote to come out. Now, we've seen in the past, we know that it's going to be it's looking like it's going to be contested, right, in the Democratic side, contested election. Now it gets pretty nasty out there. Well, you know, that's Guam's favorite pastime are you know, of course, the elections,
blood
right?
Sport,
blood sport, yeah, blood sport. Now the fact remains that it's probably going to be brutal. It's probably going to be brutal. I don't think you're going to grow hair before the general election, okay? But that being said, normally the wounds do not heal in time for the general election. And it's normally what happens, what either party that is very brutal during the primary, that, you know, the non-prevailers on that party usually gravitate to the other side, just because it's been a brutal bloodbath within that party. Now, there's a possible 3, maybe even 4-way contested election in the Democratic Party. It's going to be brutal. And if that's the case, would you guys prevail with that? Because there's an act for the Democratic Party to implode.
Well, you know, unfortunately, that is both locally and nationally we're seeing that. Really, I think it's going to have to be, you know, getting people's confidence and trust that you're the right team to go forward and can, that is also can understand what mandates or what vision the people have to get through this. You know, I've seen all sorts of politics happen since I've been involved in, at least in the gubernatorial side since '98. All sorts of things that happen, but you know, the one thing that we should remember is we're all living on this island. We're all going to be here. Election day is a day in time. You know, you shouldn't say things that you don't mean, or and you could say that maybe I'm idealistic in that way, but for me, what I practice is, don't say things that you don't mean, especially knowing that you're going to see people all the time. We're in this, you're going to see their family, you're going to see their friends. And, you know, some people respond well to this, and some people don't. So I think that, you know, you just have to have thick skin, brush it off to the side, and keep focused on the prize. And trying to convince people and not really feed into that is going to, maybe that's the new way.
Yeah. No, let me ask this, because Carl Gutierrez helped get you to where you're at.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he helped.
He's a big mentor of mine.
Absolutely. But that being said, he's been a 2-term governor. Actually, the last election was a big indication that your time is up. I mean, your time is up. I called that very, very, very quickly. I mean, especially when nobody wanted to run with him, and he ran with Gary Gumatauta. I mean, he was really scraping the bottom of the barrel with that, you know. I mean, even Gary's dad came out and said, "I'm not going to vote for you. You're being used." So that being said, now I mean, we always talk about up and coming, and we should, you know, we're preparing you for the future. Well, you are. The future has arrived. You have been, you were the up and coming. You have now arrived. Now.
But let me just say, I think my opinion is that Governor Gutierrez stepped forward to really try and basically save that legislative majority. You know, without having a governor's race, I would imagine that the administration's campaign will be focused on, you know, purging out the incumbent.
Well, and if that was the case, then he accomplished that. That he
so.
accomplished. If that was the reason he ran, but too bad that it cost him not even winning one precinct. I mean, so it was that. I mean, it cost him a lot. A lot of political loss in regards to that. But where I'm coming from with this now is that they've prepared you. You know, the Carl Gutierrez's, the Ricky Berdalius have prepared folks like you to rise to the occasion. You have risen to the occasion. So rather than continuing to be the king, why doesn't he now be a kingmaker and make you guys turn the reign over to you guys, because they've prepared you guys again for the role that you're taking at this point.
I think with him, we just have to earn it. You know, I think that we work hard and try and convince him that we're worthy candidates, no matter what office that we're running for, and try and get his support. You know, I think it's earning it is what it is.
But Josh, I mean, you're trying to convince him. Didn't the people of Guam convince Carl Gutierrez that they didn't want him? He lost every precinct. Zero. He lost. the people of Guam resoundingly said no mas. I mean, what better qualification not to run anymore, as that, handing that to him. That's the reality, and people like yourselves, again, that were groomed, helped groom by people like Carl Gutierrez and the Ricky Berdalios, are now stepping up to the plate and say we're taking over, you know. And so that's what I'm saying is if you guys want to succeed, if the Democratic wants to succeed, want to take over Adelup, you're hurting yourselves. You have the tendency to implode, and again you hand it to the Republicans. I'll talk to the Republicans as well. With them, I'm going to have them come in. But again, in the past, that's what's happened. And I mean, I hope you guys take that.
Yeah, and I just say that also in the past, when the Democrats did win, there was always a contested primary. It's just about whether or not you're able to set up front what the rules of engagement are and have a plan to come together. And part of it is building trust amongst the candidates, but also letting the supporters know that they're wanted. And for me, whatever I run for, my philosophy.
Now, let me ask you with this as well, because I think personally, when I know you and I know Lou Youngro, I think you bring a balance to that team. But when people think of the lieutenant governor, beautification and all this, they say, "Whoa, are you going to have a bigger role?" Because one of the things, again, I know Lou. I mean, I love her to death. She's a great lawmaker, but she is very progressive. She's a progressive lawmaker. Is Guam ready for that? The minimum wages, the business. I know you guys in the business community, but being very progressive, you need to move more, a little bit to the center, a little more. I think you bring that center move a little more than that. But what role will you take? I mean, Josh, the nice guy, Josh, the guy that can move things to the center. But man, if you inherit the water blaster, and the wall down in the Gunya.
I think that having been at Adelup and been staff, I think I understand what is the role of the lieutenant governor. And you're right, the only statutory role is to hold that seal, and in the local statutes is in charge of the Guam State Clearinghouse and beautification, right? Those are important things too, by the way. But really, all of it is going to be there's only one governor that gets elected, and I think when people vote, they dominantly will be looking at the governor's race. The lieutenant governor, they want to know. That's sort of like a reassurance in some ways, or an opportunity again to make a personal connection. But it really depends on what the relationship is between the governor and the lieutenant governor. And if you go in there thinking that you'll be a 50-50 partner, I think that you're mistaken. That's not what the statute says.
Absolutely.
And so it just really depends on trust and the governor's ability to identify what talent the lieutenant governor can bring to the table.
Yeah, we saw that with Carl Gutierrez, Madam Medallion, and Carl Gutierrez firing Badly's chief of staff. Keen Paris. we saw that, the 50-50. 50-50 to get in, make me win, but when I win, I no more fire. Anyway, hey Josh, thank you very much, man.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Can you stay on Talking Radio for a little bit?
Sure,
yeah,
just a little bit longer.
That. Yeah, I appreciate coming in. But hey, thank you very much for tuning in, of course, in this new segment we call, of course, Hot Topic, and Josh Tenorio, of course. And he was teasing you a little more. Didn't quite solidify it, but we're getting close. And it's the only team at this point that we're hearing out there that has, again, a governor and lieutenant governor team. So hey, congratulations for that. Anyway, you got I mean, you guys were off the starting block anyway, right? So,
like I said, we'd have to wait for some public announcements.
There we go. Thank you very much. Hey, thank you again. Join us next week. We're trying to solidify the guest for next week, but it'll be an exciting one. So again, thank you for tuning to Hot Topic. Hey, we'll be right back, of course. Pay some bills, and then we'll be right back and talk a little longer with Josh and